Greetings, good morning, or good afternoon. I'm happy to see some of you that were just on a webinar with me have followed me into another virtual meeting. So I commend you for your persistence and your Zoom stamina, if there is such a thing. Um, we'll let folks get settled in here virtually, and then we'll get started. That's great. Good to see a few familiar names and faces. And I have disabled the wait room, so as folks are joining, as we're getting started, they'll be able to come right on in and be part of the discussion today. Okay, well, I want to welcome everyone to the Summer Living Series. This is session 2. And today's theme centers around ceremonies and gatherings and rituals connected to American Indian Alaska Native summertime. And today's title came to us yesterday during a planning call. The title of today's session is Final Days of the Midnight Sun. So that is today's theme, and our panelists will tie that into their discussion. Going to have Shirley Holmberg and Marshall Burnett lead the discussion today, and then turn it over to the panel and other audience members so that you all can join in the discussion. We do have a few panelists that are not able to join us today, but we do have a few others that were able to be here, so we're happy to have everyone with us. I'm going to go through a few introductory slides, and then I'll turn the floor over to Jeff to get us started off in a good way. So it's great to see everyone. My name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the program managers here at the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. This is session 2 of our Summer Living Series. This event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We're located at the University of Iowa, and I'm broadcasting to you live from the University of Iowa campus here in Iowa City. We are part of a larger national ATTC network made up of 10 regional centers, a national Hispanic and Latinx center, as well as an ATTC network coordinating office located at the University of Missouri. This project is supported and funded by SAMHSA, and the content and topics and discussion today are developed by the panelists and do not necessarily reflect the opinions or views of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native ATTC. We are recording this event. I don't believe we have any slides today that we'll be sharing, but we are recording this event, and we'll make a link available for anyone who's interested to watch this at a later time. We are not offering CEUs for this event. This is more of a sharing of knowledge and wisdom and experiences. There are no real learning objectives here other than what I had mentioned. We do ask, and we'll ask that you complete a short survey. I'll post the link to that in the chat box. It's not mandatory, but we'd really love to hear back from you. Your feedback is important, and it also lets our funders know that we're doing what we say we're doing. So I'll put that short link in the chat box a little bit later. You'll have another opportunity to complete that when we reach out to you post-event in the email. If you have any questions about this survey, please reach out to me or contact me in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But we'd love to hear back from you if you have a few minutes to fill out that short survey. I know we're gathered here virtually today, but before we get started, I wanted to just take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a moment to read this land acknowledgement that was created by 3 former members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Mr. Sean Bear from the Meskwaki and Winnebago nations, respectively. Thank you. Well, I want to take my slides down here and turn the floor over to my colleague and friend, Jeff Couchy. Oh, he's going to open us up with a blessing and get us started in the right way. Thank you.
Well, again, good morning or afternoon for everybody. And a good way to start in a good way is to give thanks to the Creator for this wonderful season. We're about ready to transition from summer to going to late summer, early fall, and we have seen the many abundance in which summer has provided, such as the flowers, the different colors throughout the land, throughout wherever we are. And you know, it's a blessing to see the color of green on the grass and trees, and not even the natural colors, but also the colors of butterflies, and which we haven't seen during the winter. And up here in Alaska, we give thanks to the midnight sun, in which if we take a nap in the afternoon, we wake up and can't tell whether it's a night or day. And you know, we just give so many thanks to what summer has provided for us. And example like salmon, the much different kind of salmon we process. We either freeze and we dry or even smoke. And there's so much at this time of the year to give thanks, and it's you know, it's a good break from remembering what we had gone through during the winter. And it's good to even see the river flow, the ocean free of ice. And you know, we just you know, don't even think about what happened last winter or what we went through, and we give thanks to the Creator so much for the abundance of summer. And may everybody here and that is listening be blessed with so much more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for getting us going. And again, our topic for today is going to center around gatherings and ceremonies and rituals connected to summertime in American Indian, Alaska Native communities all around the country, including our good friends in Alaska. So with that, I want to just welcome everyone again, and I'm really glad you're here. And I'm going to turn the floor over to my colleague and friend and one of our panelists, one of our consultants, and one of our elders, Shirley Holmberg. So Shirley, great to have you here. Always enjoy spending time with you. So welcome, and yeah, get us started, and I'll keep an eye open for Marshall as well. He may join us a little later. Oh, Shirley, you're still muted. We're missing your wonderful
Unmute. Thank you, Steve, and good morning, everyone. My name's Shirley May Holmberg. I'm Tony Zagaltsithna. What's they call us Athabascans from the interior of Alaska. And we belong to clans. We come from our mother's side, and my mother is Tony Zagaltsi. No, that means I come from the middle people. And her way, we recognize two other clans, Noltseen, that's Bear Clan, and also Bidzich Tahatana, it's Caribou people. I am 300 years old. I'm 71 years old, and I live currently in Fairbanks, Alaska. My mother was Clara Jimmy Holmberg Clark. She was from a small community called Old Loudon. She said to tell everybody she was born in Galena, Alaska, but she was actually born, she told me she was born in the woods in the old way. Her mother just gave birth to her outside. But she didn't want people to know that's how she was she was born, but that's how everybody was born back then. She has passed on. She and I were very close. I hung out with her quite a bit, took her on trips, and she took me on trips, and we learned quite a bit about each other for about 35 years. My dad was Ralph Holmberg Sr. Dad was born in a small place called Pymute. It's below Holy Cross. If you go down the Yukon River, that was where he was from. My mother was more in the middle of the Yukon River if you go down the river. Mom was full Athabascan, what they call Athabascan. Dad was part Swede. He was, according to the blood quantum system, he was half Athabascan, half, back then the birth certificate said Indian. So he was half Indian, but we've researched our genealogy and we know where he comes from, and we go back that side maybe 3 generations, 4 generations. And then on my mother and dad's side, we go back maybe 5 generations. My mother's Athabascan name is Baga. She was named after her mother. And my Athabascan name is Yindadlano. And I'm named after my grandpa George's mother. And they tell us we become like the name we were given. So Yindadlano means that I do everything good in our women's way, not our men's way, but our women's way. I have 2 awesome adult children. One just turned 50 years old. It was a big shock to me that she was 50, but we had pretty big celebration for her. Her name is Sia. Her name in our language means mine alone, my only, and I say it means spoiled brat. She pretty much gets everything she wants, and she goes after things she wants, and she's pretty awesome. I have a son. His name is James L. Grant Holmberg, and his Athabascan name is Ya'ap. His name Ya'ap means anything from up there. It's a spiritual name, Ya'ap. My grandson, I have one awesome grandson. His name is Connor Behog. His Athabascan name is Sidzai Gus. And our language, in our language, that means he tickles my heart. When we don't name our babies till after they're born, we don't even know what they are till after they're born, after they come out into the world, and we're told not to prepare for them. So my daughter wanted me to name my grandson, so I couldn't even think about it till after he was born. And I talked to my mother, and she talked to two other elders, and they sat, and I said, when I think about my grandson and I hadn't seen him yet, I start crying. And those are happy tears. I'm so happy I have a grandson. And my mom took that and she consulted with a couple other elder ladies, and they came up with 3 names. And the one I chose was Sidzai Gus. He tickles my heart. And he's still tickling my heart. He's 17 years old now. So that's about me. I was born in a village called Hohudota Tlatlilten. That's Tanana, Alaska. Back when I was born, there was probably maybe a couple hundred people that lived there, and it's on the Yukon River. So I can talk quite a bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and start talking about summer stuff, summer things that happen with our people up here in the interior, primarily Athabascan people. We have something like 42 communities. I've traveled in my work to, I think, 39 of them. In the type of work I do behavioral health and wellness kind of stuff in villages with individuals and communities. I get called to do, I used to get called to do any time of year. I'd go render assistance when someone commits suicide or there's a tragic death, a postmistress got shot. So I went into the community to assist with counseling and with community kind of activities after someone passes. Summertime, one of the things that happened in Tanana is called Nuchalawoya. Steve, that's Nuchalawoya. And what Nuchalawoya means is where the 2 rivers meet. There's the Yukon River and there's the Tanana River. And right over on this side is where Tanana is. And there's a big celebration there. People come together. They come by boats. Nowadays, we can fly in. I don't know of anybody that swam across the Yukon to get there. But I know we have a road to the river now that it's near Tanana. It goes all the way to the river, and you call ahead and have somebody come across and pick you up by boat. Tanana currently has maybe, I want to say 140 people. There's the elders home there. But this Nuchalawoya is where everybody comes together. Traditionally, they used to come together to just have have a good time and trade and celebrate, you know, each other. And because our people travel around with the food traditionally. Back in my mother's day, when she was about 5 years old, she was still traveling with the food. Her dad and mom took her from spring camp to summer camp to fall camp to winter camp, gathering various foods, you know, meat, fish, berries, roots. And when each family had their own area that they traveled in, and then they'd get together in one place. And that's what Nuchalawoya was. So say Steve's family was coming to Tanana and he's coming by boat. There would be Tanana people on the riverbank, on the Yukon riverbank, and they'd be singing an Athabascan song when Steve arrived with his family. And they'd help him and his family get out of their boat and stuff like that. But at Nuchalawoya, there was always it was a gathering for people to come together and have a happy time. And this particular summer celebration is a clean, sober event. No alcohol, no drugs are allowed in that community during Nuchalawoya. There are kids everywhere. There's a lot of native games like the stick pull, grease pole walk, races, different races for kids and adults, and traditional potlatch. Traditionally, if it was nice outside, the food would be served outside. You know, you'd sit down and they might have put a paper table down for you, you know, rolled out paper, and you'd sit there and you'd get served traditional foods by the community. There's also nowadays we learned about fiddle music, right? Fiddle music, you know, guitar music. So they do have fiddle dance. One of the dances is a fiddle dance, and that's at night. They have also dance competitions, like if groups of people come from one village and Tanana group, and then there's another village with a dance group, they would compete with their dancing. Let's see, they do tug of war. They have a 16-mile marathon, woman 6-mile race. You know, I think the women could do the 16-mile too. No, they have speeches, you know, during the potlatch, awards presentation, and rock and roll dance. This year is I noticed the disclaimer, or whatever you call it. This is a Cayucon alcohol drug-free cultural events. And there's they have tribal court there too. They can banish you. Anyway, it's a fun time for people to gather. It's usually for 3 days. People look forward to it. I think I want to say they had some kind of boat race too this year. Other things that are happening are culture camps. Every village is not the same. We eat a lot of the same foods, and we fish in different places. One culture camp, they catch primarily whitefish, and they teach the kids how to take care of the whitefish, how to fish for it, and then also how to take care of it. And whitefish guts are really good. Whitefish guts are good. Some places they're doing salmon, in their culture camps, teaching kids how to do that. Teaching kids how to, in the summertime, when they go to camp, you got to cut brush down and stuff like that and set up your camp. And they teach kids how to do that. Little kids go to it too. And it's a good time to just all ages go, elders on down to small children. And we were talking the other day that in our culture, when a woman, young woman starts her menstruation, even if it's in the summertime, they go through Native womanhood training. They get put outside of their home in their own shelter, away from the home. Their aunts and mother and female relatives come to teach them. There's all kinds of teaching, and the teachings teach you to be a good little woman. Traditional woman. The traditional teachings for women is during that time. All about, what we need to know about men and relationships is taught during that time also. Here's one of the things they do is they get a flat stone. You get a flat stone and you take it every day and you push your skin up like this. And you, on your arms and your legs, you do the same thing. And it's to make sure that as you age, your skin is firm, right? You're taking care of yourself. During that time, you drink out of a swan's tube. It's around your neck and you drink out of that. When you go to where you relieve yourself, you have to wear a hood with fringe down the front, and you have to walk on the path. If there's a bone or something on the path, you got to move it. You can't step over it. We learn things like, not stepping over your brother's clothes, not bothering men's hunting or fishing implements, not eating certain meat from different animals. And that's if you're of childbearing age. So there's quite a bit of learning that takes place, and traditionally it used to be a month's time that you were in your own shelter. When we started living in houses, then they put a curtain up in the house, and that's where a young woman would be. So that kind of thing can happen any time of the year. It doesn't have to be in the summer or the fall or the winter, any time of the year. Right now, people are fishing, primarily for salmon. They set up fish camps. They fish by nets or with nets, with fish wheels, with poles, and processing fish, smoking it, cutting it, hanging it, smoking it. There's half dried and salmon strips. And also, Jeff brought it up yesterday. We start looking at berries this time of the year. Last time I went out was maybe a week ago, and they were still green around here. Blueberries will come first, and salmon berries. I know where some salmon berries are around here. To me, they look like a kind of like a raspberry, but they're salmon colored. We pick eating roots more so in the spring. When they're eating roots, the bear eat the same thing. It's a bear root. It's in our language it's tough. But when it starts growing in the springtime after the snow melts, and then it's a pea plant. It starts growing, and when it's just starts growing, that's when you can dig in and take the roots, and we use them for eating, and you could eat them raw or you could cook them. You know, to me, it seemed like it's like a parsnip. If you know what a parsnip is. Berries, we'll get blueberries, salmon berries. The other day I noticed high bush cranberries. Then we'll get cranberries, you know, the low bush cranberries, and then blackberries. The blackberries are my favorite, and they're hard to come by, doggone it. And I wish I had more. I shouldn't say that, shouldn't wish. If I was looked more like an elder, somebody would pick me berries and bring them to me. Anyway, that's about all I'll say right now. I'll be traveling to a village on Mondays called Fort Yukon. It's up on the Yukon. I'll take a bunch of pictures so you guys can see what it is. And Anabasi means thank you very much, Anabasi, for listening to me, and I hope you have a awesome day, a beautiful day. Anabasi.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
Yeah.
I love your stories, and I'm hoping we might open the floor up now
Yes.
to other panelists. I've got Dave and Jeff and Ray are on. I'm in communicating with a couple of others that are attempting to get on as well. So hopefully we'll see them. But let's open the floor up. Other panelists want to share about summertime ceremonies, rituals, or gatherings, or if participants want to share an experience or something.
Yeah, let me say a couple words here. I want to encourage our participants to also share, you know, as we're talking about these things, you know, what are you doing in your area right now? What do your people do at this time of the year? It's an important time of the year. I mean, I know for up here, it's an important time of the year because it's summer and it's nice and hot. It's like going to be 80 today. And to me, that's hot. So it's a good time to gather food and stuff right now. So maybe our participants, if they want to share also, feel free to do so. Thank you. Was Jeff gonna share?
Yes, I'm trying to get my computer going, so, but yeah, yes, thank you for that offer, Shirley, and hello, everybody. I'm Jeff Couchy. I'm from White Mountain, and my parents are Evelyn and Mike. They're also from White Mountain. I grew up in the Nome area, and I've grown up a very subsistence life at an early age. My journey with the subsistence lifestyle started at 4 years old, and my grandma had told my mom when I was born she was going to take me, but my mom said no. And then 2, 3, 4 years old, my grandma kept telling my mom she's going to take me. And my mom kept saying no until I was 4 years old. And at 4 years old, White Mountain is a rural area, and there was no electricity, and not until like 1982 or so, like in the 80s. And so I grew up a very traditional lifestyle. And when my grandma took me to fish camp, that's where my subsistence journey began. And so I was around my uncles and my aunts and some of my cousins, and we had gathered salmon during the summer. And the fish camp we have is about 45 minutes and from White Mountain by boat, and it is absolutely just out in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. Going to White Mountain is even just as hard to get to during all seasons, but during the summertime, families are at fish camps at this moment, and they are gathering somewhere between 70 to 400 fish altogether for drying, for smoking, and they're putting some away for under. They're putting some of the heads under the ground right now, right above the permafrost, and we have a celebration of the salmon we prepare just about when the fish is dried. The salmon are smoked, and just when we're about ready to bring them home, we dig the heads out of the salmon, mostly king salmon heads, and we put underground, and we celebrate all of our hard work with having stink heads and also stink eggs as well. And they're it's a delicacy because it's just something I grew up doing, and my ancestors grew up eating as well. And right about now, like Curly mentioned, we're looking at what berries are becoming ready to be picked, and we do pick blueberries as well, and salmon berries, and around here in Anchorage they're called cloudberries. We also have Alaska raspberries, and so right about now is where we're going to be looking to pick those after we bring this, the subsistence salmon down to the freezer and put away. And with the upcoming berries, families will pick around here. I pick about 20 gallons altogether, some 80 gallons of salmon berries, and blueberries, and even more during the fall is blackberries and the low brush red berries that you're mentioning, Shirley. And after all the subsistence gathering that we do during the summertime, there's the when the majority of the people come back from fish camp, there's some festivals that happen in which we have a salmon festival. And the salmon festival is there's a number of things that happen, as you were mentioning, Shirley, that there's activities that go on, and one of them is what was the biggest king salmon, and of course the smallest, but we don't get much of the smallest king salmon. The most attractive looking salmon. So there's a number of
things we do with salmon, and also there's the giving away of some of the subsistence salmon that we did during fish camp, and we offer that to the community. And it's pretty much sharing what we have taken, and it's like a Thanksgiving to the subsistence food. And right now, we're, even though it's just warmed up, we're in the final days of the warmth, and the time that we consider summer ending is putting away the dry fish, putting away the salmon, start picking the berries, and the hint of fall time for us is when the silver salmon arrive. And unfortunately, it's hard to say right now, but there was one silver salmon already caught, and so it's hard to imagine summer coming to a close for us. And also another sign of summer ending is when the evenings are no longer the midnight sun. So up north, it'll pretty much stay, the sun will stay up pretty much all the 24 hours, and that's going to be ending pretty soon. And so that'll be the sign of the end of summer for us. From subsistence gathering of salmon, and so from gathering the berries, we're going to be going into the berry festivals, and there's going to be another giving of thanks to the community, and we make a guruk, we make berry pies, and there's it's just a berry festival to where families will gather and make what they have. They make different varieties of berries to eat as dessert to the community. And as you can imagine, with the 24 hours of daylight, there's going to be some giveaways. Matter of fact, just yesterday, I was giving a list of names and addresses and communities to where we're going to be, where there's going to be vegetables that are Alaskan grown, distributed, and and the majority of the people that I work with is warriors or veterans, and so we're looking at getting ready to give the Alaska grown vegetables to our warriors and elders, and so it's a real busy time for people out there at fish camps, and with the 24 hours of daylight, our rest is going to be given to us when we put all our work away. And so I was mentioning earlier that if we take a nap during the afternoon, we can't really tell if it's 2-3 p.m. or 2 or 3 a.m. And so time is really irrelevant at times. So it's a very it's a very unique time for villages in Alaska at this time. And so with all the gathering, not only with subsistence food, but also with gathering of driftwood, or getting ready for the fall and winter, there's some wood that and logs that we gather, and one of which is driftwood roots, and there's communities that find some driftwood, and the driftwood roots are used for making spoons and for soup, and so so there's a lot of gathering during this time. So it's a very busy time, and Also, along with the driftwood, we also look for and prepare for making harpoons for the fall hunts. And of course, that's going to be used throughout. Um, if we go seal hunting, whale hunting, the one of the things we look for a harpoon is a good wood that we either find on the windy side of a mountain, or if it's a driftwood, we look for curls that swirl around the wood, and it could be anywhere from 5 feet to 8 feet long. That's the ideal harpoon wood that we'd be looking for. And the majority of the harpoons we use are spruce trees. And so that was one thing that I learned early on, is to find that kind of wood for harpoons. And a lot of people don't think about the windy side of mountains having the more swirl. So that means that the trees in the windy areas are more stronger than the trees that are not in the windy area. So the windy area wood is much more stronger than the where it's not windy at all, such as some valleys and middle parts of the forest. So there's much that I have learned at an early age, and of course, I mentioned before, we don't have a book to show us on how to do and prepare for fish camps, for fishing, for cutting fish, for gathering, for smoking, for brining, and so a lot of which the subsistence lifestyle I grew up doing, I watched, and that's how we passed on. What we learn is by having our children make sure they help us and they observe. And probably the proudest moment is a grandchild had mentioned that the smoked salmon, the dried salmon that we made, tasted just like the grandparents. And the grandchild had taste of our subsistence salmon and looked up at us and said, "This tastes just like old grandma's dried salmon." And so that was a very proud moment, to where we observed a lot, and we learned how to carry that on. So the grandchild is going to be watching very closely in the next few years about how we prepare that. And so hopefully the grandchild's grandchild will say the same thing. So summer is very unique here in Alaska, and we have much to be thankful for during this time. So there was a question about how big are the salmon? How big is the fish? Well, the king salmon, we normally don't get. We don't keep king salmon that are about 20 pounds. So some can be 40, 50 pounds. It's rare to see anything 60 pounds and above nowadays. But there are a few king salmon that we do see that huge. And as you stated, Shirley, that we do drift net and we do set net. And to give you an example, I used to use a 8.5-inch mesh net for king salmon, and the king salmon would be used primarily for smoked salmon. And now we use anywhere from 7.5 or less mesh net nowadays for king salmon. And so it's an interesting time, and it's great to share this.
Jeff, thank you for that. You shared some of this in our planning call yesterday, but I really enjoyed hearing it even again, just learning so much. Did you say 50-pound salmon. Did I hear that right?
Yes, and back in the day, it was, we'd be looking at getting about 50, 60-pound king salmon.
Wow.
And now, anything 20, 30, 40 pounds, that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
And, if you have a ruler and, a mesh size 8.5 is what I used to use. And, due to the number declining, it's dropped down
Yeah.
to 7.5, and even less. So,
Well, again, thanks for sharing some of your culture and your experience and some of those gatherings, rituals, and ceremonies. That's really honored to hear that. Thank you. I want to turn the floor back to the audience if they've got questions for any of the panelists or comments. I see. I thought he was on there just a minute ago, but oh yeah, there's Doug. Doug Widows has managed to join us while he's en route somewhere, probably checking on the horses or something. I don't know, but good to see you. Good to have you on, Doug. We're talking about summer ceremonies and rituals and gatherings. So open the floor up to our panelists or the audience members. Anybody wants to share? The floor is open.
This is Martina. One thing I gotta say is Shirley's making me hungry.
That's this is the last of my salmon strips from last year. But I was fortunate, Martina, to dig in my freezer just a little while ago because we have company come in, and I found some special bags of fish I put away. So there's some, half-dried smoked salmon, and there's some king salmon in there too. So they'll be eating good.
Yeah, I'm coming to your house.
Okay, go ahead.
We're all going to Shirley's, so let's get our flights booked. We're heading up, Shirley.
No, let's meet in Seattle and bring our traditional foods from all over.
That's good. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing. Martina, did you have anything you want to say?
I actually while you guys were talking, I was thinking about our fish camp. And one of the things that I absolutely love was going out into the tundra of course, to look at the berries, but we also picked sourdough.
Mm.
It's about this time, and I have lagoon berries growing on my property. And so
Wow.
I think, yeah, they're just like small, two little lagoon berries right now, but I'm waiting patiently. The other thing is also the the raspberries are half flowered, and thankfully my daughters, they have a house that have cranberries, and so we're waiting for them to yeah, unfortunately though, I do have to leave for another meeting.
Oh,
It is always good to see you, Shirley. I love seeing you. Just like Ray, you're one of my favorites that I always remember from when I was going to school. So yeah, you and
good
your
to
bike.
see you.
Yeah, you in your biker jacket. I'll remember.
Yeah, good to see you too, Martina.
You too.
Thank you.
Hi, Mom. Nice seeing you guys.
Jeez.
Hi, Martina. Good. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, Jeff has posted a great picture there in the chat. Jeff, I
Mm.
assume this is a family member of yours.
Hmm.
A granddaughter, yes. Great. She looks like she's really is thankful of that. That's great. That's a great picture.
Yes, I was trying to reply, and that is the granddaughter that, you know, she did enjoy that, and that just brought back memories for her. And my in-laws had it since passed on, and so it was a really, really good feeling to hear her say it tastes just like grandma's.
Mm. Yeah, that's high praise there. That's
Mm. So should we just call on people?
well,
Sid?
sure. I didn't know if Doug or Ray or David had anything they wanted to add or thoughts or ideas about their own summer experiences.
So I have a question for Jeff. You'd mentioned 50-pound king salmon, but they're not that big anymore. Why is that?
Well, well, it used to be 60 pounds actually. You know, it was common to have 60 pounds caught in the 8.5-inch mesh net. And so, you know, there'd be 50 pounds, there'd be, you know, 40 pounds. And anything smaller, you know, wouldn't go through the 8.5 mesh, you know, so that way it can, you know, continue to grow. And now it's kind of not common to, it's uncommon to see anything that big nowadays. And so the smaller the mesh size, you know, the more king salmon is caught. And you know, and throughout the years, you know, just you know, the smaller mesh size actually caught the smaller king salmon. And I think that's the reason why we don't see as much 60 pounders as we used to.
Okay,
I think
thanks.
there's a there's controversy going on about fishing up here in Alaska too. The commercial fishermen are fishing, you know, before they come up the rivers. So we're getting less fish. And right now, I believe on the Yukon, I don't believe we're allowed to go after king salmon. I know my friends over in Dillingham get king salmon, but people on the Yukon River, they're not allowed to fish for kings. And I think one of the reasons, Jeff, and I'm a woman, my thoughts are, and I'm kind of like a kind of political person, and I just hold myself back from, well, I weigh my words. Like my mom said, you don't want to pay for your words. So I think the overfishing done by commercial fishermen is making it difficult for natives along the Yukon to fish for king and get those big king salmon we used to get. And that's all I'm going to say. But there's a lot of controversy right now about that.
Yeah, just to mention a little bit about that is the commercial fishing is, you know, it's almost unlimited amount that they're allowed to catch during the day or during the fishing period. And so that does have a big effect on the fishing as for subsistence foods in the main rivers. And so it does have an impact. And so, you know, if we go down to Kasilop and dip net down to Kasilop or red salmon, if there's commercial fishing that day, of course, there will be less reds for us to catch by dip netting. So so commercial fishing does have an effect on subsistence gathering. So,
One of the things our tribes are doing up here, the Tanana Chiefs Conference is giving fish to elders. You know, they'll call you up if you're of a certain age and they'll say, we have fish for you, and, you know, you'll get fish. And they're doing that in villages too, so I don't know if it's happening over in your area too, Jeff, but that's what's going on in the interior.
Yes, and the you know, so you know the catch that we do when there's commercial fishing, you know, it is you know we're highly thankful for what we catch. And matter of fact, the first red salmon that I caught this year, you know, it was just a few, but yet, you know, it was enough to give thankfulness. And normally what we do on the first catch is just have almost the entire salmon, including the guts, including, you know, the heart, the head, the eyes. And even, you know, if the fish is big enough, we even have the back of the fin. So it's you know, so you know, the first catch is always really we give it to high regards. So I did send a picture of the dried salmon that the granddaughter was enjoying, and that was the first batch. We normally have about 3 batches that we keep, and that we you know, we know that it'll carry us through the winter. My family up north will have about 3 batches. I had a batch about 10 or 12 at a time, but yet back home, you know, we gather about 200, 300 at a time for the, you know, so that's 70 is the average batch at a time where we dry and where we, you know, where we make smoked salmon. So about 70 salmon altogether for the first batch. And then so it just carries through until everybody has what they need.
Yeah, Jeff, I put that picture up on the share screen too, just so we could make it a little bit larger so folks can see it if they're on their, maybe on their phones or. But that's a great shot there.
Yeah, so that was the first batch, and so the first batch is all about sharing. So the first batch we probably kept about 3, maybe 4 salmon to ourselves and gave the rest away. And
Well, again,
So-
we open the floor up, comments, or Jeff, if you have something else you want to add, didn't mean to cut you off there, but Dave or Ray or Doug, you guys want to comment, or any of the audience members?
Oh, it's muted.
We probably missed a really great story, Doug, when you're on mute.
Only thing I wanted to add was that spring equinox and summer solstice. You know, the buffalo, they were leading us, you know, teaching us. Somehow it got changed to where we become the ones that are above everything. We kind of need to go back to things like that. With those 3 stars that represent the teepee. They were also the grandmother that taught the Nakota language of people. Nobody talks about that either. Then when they taught that, it wasn't from the left side of the brain, but taught with respect, love, and kindness. That's how we need to be. Language is Mushrikicha, Wikicha. And also, what I wanted to share was that during those times, spirits up there, they were loading their chanupa, praying at those times also. And sharing that story one time, non-native asked me, "Where did you know that?" Oral tradition, still very much alive, teaching. Want to share that much? See all of you. I didn't have service where I was at. He was right. I'll take care of horses. Thank you guys.
Wopila Yelo. Appreciate you, Doug, for coming on, and I know you're in the middle of your work day, so but I do appreciate you sharing. Always good to hear you.
So, Cindy Fox Star, do you have anything you want to speak about?
Hello, am I muted or unmuted?
No, we can hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear, Cindy. Good to hear you.
All right. So yeah, I work here at American Indian Health Service in Chicago.
Oh,
So I really enjoy hearing how other communities are living. So we don't get fresh. We go to the grocery stores. So I just find it so fascinating that you guys are able to pick it all, to store it for the year, and you guys will be the survivors if anything was to happen. And I try to tell that to the youth, our youth. What would you do if there was no electricity? You guys you're gonna be lost. You're not gonna be you don't know what to do. And I encourage them to try to learn, but just you guys sharing your stories on how you're hunting and you're gathering and the type of wood that you're using to make your spears. I'm so happy to hear all of these stories that that's provided during these Zoom sessions. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, I can't imagine daylight 24 hours a day. So I've only been to Anchorage, and that was just a couple months ago for 3 days for a conference, but it's on my bucket list. One of these days I am going up there.
Yeah, cool. Summertime's probably the best time to come up to the interior, because you could drive all over, you could fly all over, you could go by boat, you can get everywhere. If you're ambitious, you can walk from community to community.
It's too dangerous down here to walk block by block sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for sharing, and if you come up this way somehow, let me know.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll drag you to a village.
I want to pick some Devil's Club. I want to pick some different medicines that we don't have down here.
Ah, Devil's Club is more southeast, huh?
It's more southeast.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it by Anchorage. Jeff, do you know?
I did hear there's devil clubs over here,
Hmm,
and yeah, but I kind of new to the city, so I don't know really where to go.
Oh, well, if you come to Chicago, look me up and I'll do a cultural exchange.
That
yeah,
sounds wonderful.
yeah. So is there anybody else that would like to share? David, maybe? David, are you there?
I'm here.
Would you like to share?
Yeah, well, so I was, with you talking about picking berries and with the salmon. So my brother he was a music teacher for a long time, and he cashed it in and went back to school and went to culinary arts school. So he's a chef now,
Oh,
but he's up in Seward, Alaska, or yeah,
Seward.
Seward.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's up there for like seasonal, like he works
No.
for cruise liners, and right now he's working on a rail. I think it's a railroad that goes up.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Alaska Railroad.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's seasonal. So I talk to him all the time about, like, I ask him, like, what do you do in your off time? And if I think it would be really cool to be hired up there seasonal and just you get to hang out up there.
Yep.
So is there something, like when he gets his off time, is there something in the area that he could participate in with as far as the cultural harvesting? And because I know he would be very interested in preparing foods.
Down where he's at, that's near Kenaitze people. They're Athabascan people too. There's some other folks down that way too, but Kenaitze people are around Kenai area,
Mhm.
Soldotna area. They have their traditional grounds there, and a lot of them live around that area, but they have stuff going on. And Kenaitze is KENAITZE, Kenaitze. And if you go on their tribal, Google their tribe, they usually post, what's going on. And everybody's pretty friendly around here. If you see another native person, you're gonna wonder where they are and just start talking to them. There's some Navajo guys up here, and they were building there's a company, I forget the name of it, but they were building this specific building all over. This company hired them to build this building, but I just went up, started jabbering away with them, and gee, they just tell me all kinds of things. Of course, they're related to us too. So I mean, you guys are related to us too. But Native people up here are friendly. He could even call Kenaitze, their tribe, and ask if there's anything going on during his off time. Seward itself is more of a touristy spot, and I don't think we had one of our rural providers conferences there, and mostly a lot of, non-native and fishing, non-native people, commercial fishing folks, and not a whole heck of a lot. There in Seward, there's a Avtech AVTEC, Avtech. It's a lot of native people get training at that center. It's right in Seward. I don't know if they have anything other than that as far as a tribe that, you know, is there. I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, did that help you any?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because you know, I
Why
could
are there
tell.
so few salmon left? There are many reasons for the decline in salmon populations.
Oh,
Logging and
did you guys hear that? I Googled overfishing salmon on my other computer and it started talking away about why are there so few salmon left? I have
I thought it was like an
computers.
AI was taking over there for a minute.
Yeah, it was that computer.
Yeah, I think he would be interested in seeing that, like being part of that firsthand, because you know, from the Pueblo culture, it's you know, just different things, you know. And I remember that early in his training as a chef, while he was in culinary arts school, he won a competition cooking salmon, something that
Oh,
he
cool.
yeah, something that he developed himself. And he won a competition that took him on to like a next level national competition. And you know, I was amazed, you know, that he won that, because you know, growing up, we're used to
Wow.
cooking, you know, we have jerky and tortillas sitting around, you know, or the fresh fish, you know, trout, bass, you know.
Yeah.
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 So I think he would be interested in getting out. He's been up there for I think 3 months. He just, you know, he said it's a long, his contract is for like I think it ends in September, at the end of
Yeah.
September. Yeah.
Yeah, those cruise ships usually end around that time. I worked on one for a couple of weeks and they wanted me there all, you know, during the season, but man, I couldn't handle being on the water all the time.
Oh
It's
man,
it's a different life.
I was in the Navy for a long time. I miss the water. There ain't no water in Albuquerque.
Yeah. Oh, there is a tribe there. It's called I don't know how to say it, but it's Qutekcak. They do have something in Seward, and I never knew it till just right this minute. So they have a website. That's why I have two computers, so I could just Google everything.
Oh.
I have my old one and my new one here. Cool though. I don't know what tribe they are. I mean, what people they are. Oh, Chagachmute people. Okay. Anyway, sorry, going off on a tangent here. Anybody else want to share? Kathleen Montano. Where are you? Kathleen?
Hi there. I'm not native, but I attend all these because I'm a health educator and I love to
Oh.
learn. And I'm in Arizona.
Oh, wow.
I'm down in the southern part of Arizona, so Pasquayaki and Tohono O'odham
Oh, cool.
people are what I'm used to. I know that they do a lot with the cactus, and they make jams and jellies. I imagine that's more springtime than summer. It's 108 here right now.
Oh my God.
So I don't think they do a whole lot in the summer. I think they do more things in the spring and the winter time. So a little bit opposite. But I was just up, as I said, in your part of the woods. I went to
Yes.
Ketchikan, Skagway, Juneau. Loved it. Beautiful.
Wow.
Enjoyed everything. Saw plenty of dried salmon. Saw beautiful whales. But I so enjoy participating these. I've learned so much. I was just on the one prior to this one as well.
Cool.
I saw that, Kathleen. I admire your stamina, so that's appreciate you being on.
Well, I learned so much, and I thank you for letting me babble on and share.
Thank you, Kathleen. And I see Marshall is here now. Hi, Marshall. You have anything to share with us?
Oh, hello, everybody. I was an important banking issue to take care of. Our house was tornado damaged very recently,
Oh my
and
God.
there was a deadline on a banking issue that had to be dealt with right now, and before the week expired. So
Wow.
that was my task. And right at 2 o'clock, I was getting my credit checked and signing signatures and trying to set up the account for insurance payment to be processed. Oh well, crazy stuff. So anyway, got you guys listening to you right now, loud and clear. And I'll be hanging out with you. So if you have any questions, just let me know if you want me to respond to something, okay?
So you have anything to say about summer activities in your area with your people?
Summer activities in my area with my people.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. There's lots of summer activities. In fact, it's really the highlight of what's happening around here. Some of our activities are so awesome that people forget that it's only a brief moment out of the whole year, and they say, wow, this is wonderful, this is beautiful, and they think it's always like this, and they forget that the rest of the year is all the misery that comes along with poverty. So we really look forward to our summer ceremonies and our summer happenings, because the rest of the year truthfully can be miserable. So I notice young people choosing to be miserable by not paying attention to the beauty in their culture, not being taught to pay attention to the beauty of their culture. So here's an example of something that I regret. I gave my oldest daughter a choice of going to the womanhood ceremony when she was a little girl. At that time, when she was supposed to go to the womanhood ceremony, I said, how do you go, or do you want to go later? And I should have just not given her a choice. That's one of my big regrets. And now she's my only daughter who hasn't participated with that. And she's 24 years old, and she has never heard expectations from women in her traditional community of what her responsibilities are as a Native American Indian woman. She's never heard that put to her in front of a ceremony by women she does not really know, but from the same tribe and I think it's a crucial step that I neglected. So I made sure that I did not give my other little girls a choice. Of course, they did not want to go in the hot summer to go hang out in the teepee for a 4-day ceremony. No, what little 12-year-old girl wants to do that when grandma's house is air conditioned and internet and facing the computer and on the phones and in the tablets? Who wants to go to a ceremony? But I made them go. And now, 3 weeks later, I see that they have made some serious friendships and they want to go back to the ceremony and help with the other ceremonies. And they want to be a part of harvesting camp. They want to be a part of leadership camp, things like that. So where I dropped the ball is giving my daughter a choice. I should have just made her go. Other ceremonies that are going on right now. When I talked to you guys last, I had been up for almost 2 days because I took my boys to a sacred Bear Butte mountain. And if you ever seen the movie Powell Highway, it'll give you a little taste of Bear Butte. And the Indian actor Gary Farmer, that was one of his first busting out roles, introducing Gary Farmer. Yeah, I think that was it. There's some scenes there of Powwow Highway that shows our sacred mountain, Bear Butte. And I took my kids there, my 2 boys, of course, humming and hawing. Grandma's house is air conditioner. They're playing some video games between doing chores. And I didn't give them a choice, but when it came time that evening to get in the car and drive to Bear Butte at 11 o'clock at night so we can hike up for the sunrise, I experienced a attitude change. And all of a sudden they were serious and they wanted to do it. And I talked to them on the way out there about how if I would have spent more time raising them with the creation stories, they would have been doing this around age 12 instead of age 16. And they're supposed to go up there for 4 days and 4 nights if possible, and not just overnight for sunrise. Other things is, of course, I pick a Sundance or 2 every year to take my family to. And we're also harvesting traditional foods. So since I talked to you guys last, I got more choke cherries. And the choke cherry bush is our traditional main fruit. We have wild plums and currant berries and things, typical berries found on the prairie, something we call buffalo berries. They are found out here amongst the prairie, roaming around, teepee culture, following buffalo herds. You never know what kind of fruit berries will be over the next hill. But I see plum bushes with big green plums, and they'll be purple when they're ripe. We didn't save plums. We ate them right there as when they were ripe. And they're hard to save because there's a lot of seed and a lot of thick skin and not much meat in between the juicy fruit. So they're eaten right away as they're picked. The choke cherries are what we save for the winter. And if you don't have fruit in the winter time, you get, I tell people you get scurvy. So choke cherry patties, we picked the choke cherries and we smashed them up with a hammer stone on another rock. And they were shaped by hand into something that looks like a hamburger patty. And those were laid out in the sun to dry for the winter. Okay, so choke cherry was so important to our traditional foods and our culture that it also has a place in our ceremonies. The choke cherry, there's a bundle of choke cherries bushes tied up in the Sundance tree, our sacred Sundance ceremony. They call that the thunderbeam nest. When we do our vision quests, some choke cherry sticks with the leaves on are put at the 4 directions to tie our flags onto, and our flags are full of tobacco. offerings to the spirit beings that represent the four directions. Chokecherry juice is poured on the ground by the altar where we lay our pipe during the ceremony, sacred pipe. And so chokecherry is just part of our traditional native culture and our foods, and it can't be taken out. It can't be removed because it's part of our ceremonial foods also. And we pound up the chokecherries. Even after they're dried in the winter, we'd also dry meat. And when the weather is too humid to dry meat, the meat would be dried by fire inside of a teepee. So you get a smoke. And barbecue experts will tell you that the hickory and there's all these good barbecue smokes for meat, but actually cottonwood works just fine.
Cottonwood.
Cottonwood works fine for smoking meat, and there's nothing wrong with it. I tell people to try not to use cottonwood that was growing next to the exit part of your house plumbing. Yeah, don't use that cottonwood because there's a reason it'll smell funny. So chokecherry is also used. It's our preferred wood for our arrow shafts. So when we make arrows, even in our sacred bundles, those arrow woods are chokecherry bush. It's our preferred archery equipment. Arrows, and the wood for our archery equipment is ash tree. For specifically northern plains regions, it's the ash tree, and then secondary is the chokecherry bush. Will make a capable bow. And years ago, the Spaniards lost their horses, and we became a horse culture, and we transitioned from a long European style longbow to a short horseback bow. And they were made out of chokecherry bush and ash tree, sometimes elk antler and bighorn sheep and bison horn. But you can see how important chokecherry is to our culture. So that's the main food we would be starting to pay attention to right now. Some regions also have mushrooms. Okay. And that always paid attention to what types of mushrooms are edible out on the prairie, but there's not that as many mushroom varieties out here on the prairie like there are in the Northwest coast or the more rainy regions of the Southeast. They have a lot more mushroom varieties. But we did use mushrooms out here also for medicine. Right now would be a good time to get some medicines. Some medicines, you might want to get them in the fall, but even the chokecherry bush itself plays a part in our traditional medicines. We would use the bark for certain things. The flowers before they're, in the middle of flowering, when the bees come by and pollinate them, you pick those chokecherry flowers. They're used for another medicine besides the bark. There's a fungus that grows on the chokecherry. There's a birch fungus up there. It grows, there's a fungus like that grows on our chokecherry, and we use that in our medicine. So chokecherry plays a big part. Right now it's chokecherry season, and that's why I'm carrying on about chokecherries. We have other berries. We have small patches of blueberries. We have small patches of plains. It's not really a no like you find on the West Coast.
Marshall, you're breaking up a little bit.
Because of the urban sprawl and environmental change, I notice our trees are drying out and dying, and things like that. And okay, sorry guys. And can you hear me? How's this?
Yeah, that's
Can you hear me
better.
now?
Yeah,
How
that's
about now?
better.
I'm at the top of a hill now. Is it
Oh.
working yet? Okay. All
That's
right.
better.
So anyway, I was talking about environmental change on our chokecherry bushes, and our chokecherry bushes are starting to get hit by a fungus that was naturally because of environmental change. It's getting hotter and drier, and the plants are having a hard time adjusting. But that's been my traditional upbringing and career of choice, is paying attention to our traditional plants and medicines. When I was a young man, I had an opportunity to spend time with a medicine woman who would be my mother. I was the only grandchild who wanted to learn. She had several grandchildren, but they were busy partying and doing everything but wanting to learn about our medicines. So that's been my traditional upbringing. And the funny thing is, I've never really looked the part. It always take people a minute to process the fact that I'm actually a culture keeper, but I look like a white kid. Yeah. All right. So any questions so far?
I just have a
Anybody
comment.
have a question?
I have a comment to make. Choke cherries, we got a lot of choke cherries up here, but they were something that was brought in. And I think some people use them, but I remember my ex-husband, he used to talk about something called like mojapi or something like that.
Oh, wojapi. Yeah, that's
Yay. Is that the choke cherry?
our traditional. That's the choke cherry, and that's our traditional berry pudding, or some people will
Oh.
call it a berry gravy. But this the choke cherry patties
Oh, yeah.
rehydrated, and we might add the leaves of the buffalo berry.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some up here, so that's cool. But you know how you say you pound meat and stuff like that? You guys pound meat, right? You're
Yes, that's a
um
very important food to our winter survival, is drying the meat and pounding it and adding choke cherries
yeah, we
to
make
it.
something like that too up here. And only
And then
men, go ahead.
we don't add raw fat. We add cooked fat. And the cooking of the fat was not every time, but often it came from what they called making marrow. And so that would be cracking the bones open of hunted animals and then boiling that. And then you have the fat coming to the top. And that is one of our favorite ones was bone marrow. And so the berries, the cooked fat, and the dried meat, sometimes smoked dried meat, would be all pounded together.
Yep.
And it's called pemmican, but we call it wasna.
Awesome.
Is a very important part of our ceremonial foods also. And in fact, for quite some time, people thought we only ate it at ceremonies. And I call that boarding school damage, or a misunderstanding of our own culture. We should be eating that food all the time. And some people say, oh, that's just for ceremonies. No, it's for every day. If you want to make pemmican, you can eat as much. So how it is used in our ceremonies and the spiritual connection to our ancestors when having that food. I had a relative in Eagle Butte when he was a young man. We had one of our very sacred house ceremonies, and after the ceremony, there was lots of pemmican or wasna left in the bowl, but it had been used and offered in the ceremonies. And so it had been blessed, and the ceremony was intended to be spiritual food. And his job was to give it out right away to everybody. But there was extra, so he took it home, and he kept it under his bed. And what happened next is they had to have 4 nights of ceremony because his bed kept shaking. In the middle of the night, his bed would move, and he'd hear things under his bed. And what was overlooked as a young man is he forgot that food belonged to the spirits because it was presented in the ceremony. And that's one of their favorite foods. So not only when we pray with tobacco, we also make an offering of the traditional pemmican or wasna out as a food offering when we pray. So that's another connection to things we need to remember when we have our ceremonies. And where does the food go afterwards? Yeah, you can invite things into your house that will be shaking your bed.
Yeah, I was going to say that our men during potlatches, I've seen, and women aren't supposed to be around there because they said where our men are working on food and stuff like that, women aren't supposed to come around. If they're cooking like moosehead soup or something like that for potlatch, women aren't supposed to go where they're cooking. And this old man said, if you women come to where men are cooking, you better have a darn good reason to be there. And if a man comes to where we're sewing during potlatches, they better have a darn good reason to come where women are, because it's like a distraction. And I saw one man come to where we're sewing and the door was closed, and there are a bunch of women sewing beads, skin for potlatch, and that was happening there in the village. And there's a little knock on the door, like real silent, kind of quiet knock, and all the women looked up, because if it was a woman, you just walk in. So everybody said, come in. And this guy stood there, and he was holding a little bag. And he said, he had his head down. He said, my wife told me to bring this to you guys. So he handed in a bag, and then he just turned around and walked away. But when we see, especially young girls that, are still on their, can still have menstruation, they're not supposed to be around that kind of thing. And we make the same kind of thing with dried moose meat, berries, and moose fat. And the moose fat, we render it, and the little crispy things, crispy fat, we call it ginkodza in our language. My mom loved it when I gave her ginkodza. I made it for her, but we render fat, and we use that ginkodza in that, pound it the same way. But it was men's job to do the cooking of traditional foods. And in that one village, they had all young men in a different room, and they were pounding that meat. They were all having a hand in pounding the meat, and women couldn't be around. I was probably maybe 40 then, but I couldn't be in there either, but I took a peek in there, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. But boy, that stuff is good, huh?
Yeah,
That stuff is good
really
stuff.
good.
And it's special food. There's certain things only old people can eat. And there's things that girls that are still on menstruation can't eat. But the old people's food is the best. Like the chamat, That's one word for it. It's moose stomach, you know, the moose's stomach, we eat that. We eat moose head soup, but jamut, you're not supposed to eat that if you're of childbearing age. So I have an old friend and I wasn't supposed to have it, but I told him, give me your jamut. And his back was to me, and the potlatch, my back was to him. We're in chairs, you know, in rows. And his table was on the other side, but they were serving that jamut, and I told him, give me your jamut. So he just handed it to me because he's older than me, so I guess it was okay, but it sure tastes good. It was moose stomach. But old people get the, you know, the good food at our potlatches. I can get it now though. No. Anyway,
What I learned from working with Alaska Native kids at Chemawa Indian School,
oh yeah.
I would hear stories how we traditionally butcher a bison is just identical to you know, traditional butcherings all across Indian country. You know, when I was a kid and rediscovering what it was to traditionally harvest or process an animal, you know, there was lots to learn. There was lots to learn. I would say I was at least 2 generations of Indian butchering when we lost our bison and had to transition to cattle. And then the government issues of cut meat already cut, you know, so we started to move away from how we traditionally ate animals. And so when I was a little boy, my uncles tricked me into eating the stomach, and oh, it smelled good, and they said something in Indian, and I didn't know what they're saying. And you want to eat some, Marshall? I said, yeah, okay. And so I was about 7 or 8 or 9 years old the first time I got down on a bowl of stomach soup. Yeah. And as years went on, I was one of the leaders of rediscovering our traditional archery equipment, and not just making wall hangers, but actually fine archery equipment. And when I did, I mastered the craft, and I think I have my own historically correct archery equipment. No modern post-European contact materials on it, and I even made my own stone arrowheads. And I shot my first buffalo, and I was invited to go out there and shoot it. And when I got out there, I realized there wasn't a horse around, and there was no trees to hide behind while the buffalo came by. And it was just flat prairie. And I'm thinking, how am I going to walk up to this buffalo? And so I ended up chasing this buffalo 40 miles an hour in the back of a pickup truck. Yeah. That was my first traditional buffalo hunt. And I had a very nicely made stone arrowhead of hard flint. And I shot my first arrow. The guy driving the pickup didn't want to get too close, so he made me shoot from kind of far away, 40 miles an hour. And my stone arrowhead hit a buffalo rib bone behind the front leg. And my stone arrowhead turned to powder. It turned to dust. And I didn't know stone arrowhead, flint stone from a prairie agate out here in South Dakota. And I made a very nice arrowhead. And I saw the arrow hit the rib bone, and it turned to powder. And when I found the spot where I hit it when we were butchering, and it went through the skin and hit a rib bone right in the middle of a rib bone on the thickest part, and it cracked the rib bone, but my arrowhead turned to powder. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was waiting for the driver. He got closer. He got real close, and I put an arrow right behind the front leg, right where you're supposed to put an arrow. And I was waiting for this big dramatic dances with wolves wipe out and buffalo to do a cartwheel flip and dust in the air, and nothing happened. So about 3 seconds later, I grabbed another arrow and I put it right behind the front leg, just right next to the first arrow I put in. And these were long arrows, and all you could see is the feathers sticking out of the bison. So they went way into the bison.
Wow.
And in about 7 seconds, I had 3 arrows right behind the front leg, and I kept waiting for this. And I just decided to stop, and a little voice in my head said, "That's enough arrows." And I didn't know, because I never seen a real buffalo hunt before, and I was rediscovering this on my own with very little support from the community. And this buffalo ran about 300 yards before it got tired and had to lay down and rest. Yeah. And when we're butchering, I found my arrows went almost through the bison. The only thing that stopped my arrows was the shoulder blade on the opposite side of the bison. And back to chokecherry, my arrowheads or my arrow shafts were made out of chokecherry bush. Yeah. And so my efforts to rediscover things have been a lifelong pursuit, but now other people are posting their YouTube videos and, talking about Indians did this and Indians did that. And people tell me, geez, you should try and what I did that 30 years ago. Yeah. And what I learned from butchering, I learned that we did take a bite of that raw liver. We did take a bite of that raw heart, and we did take a piece of raw meat and dip it in the fresh raw gallbladder juice. We ate the kidneys raw. Kidneys were eaten raw. And there's all these things of the bison that are eaten raw. And part of that is because we're a nomadic people and we didn't have gardens. And so when you don't have a garden in your nomadic lifestyle, how you get the same nutrition is to eat all the organs of the animal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've spent my life trying to hold on to what I learned and tricking my kids into eating it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tricking my kids. That's always been a good one. Now I get to trick my grandson into eating stomach soup.
Thank you for sharing.
But I'm gonna.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate an opportunity to do some storytelling, and I was trying to get home before the meeting, but now I'm sitting up on a high hill with my family in the pickup right behind me. So I'm going to put the phone down, and I'm going to have a sporadic connection here for a few minutes until I get back to the house. So I'm going to be doing some driving, and I'll be listening the best I can until I get home. Then I'll pick up again. Okay.
Thank you. Let's see.
Wopila, Yelo. Appreciate you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are approaching the top of the hour, and wanted to just see if there were any closing thoughts or comments before we kind of wrap things up. Thanks for folks for staying on. I know it's a long time to be on a Zoom call, especially if you were on the event prior to this. So appreciate you all. We're going to broadcast again. Session 3 will be August 4th. We'll see you then, and we'll continue this dialogue. So thank you, everyone. Please, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay connected. Bye.
Take care.